whatever you choose to focus on is what you're gonna get more of. Probably even perhaps making yourself worse in the process. The only thing that matters in this life, guys, is the choices that you make. How many of you guys have ever experienced something and you felt like you have a lot of inner healing to go through? You have to go through this inner healing journey. And sometimes, like especially in my industry, like all I want to talk about is money. All I love is money. But sometimes we have to heal who we are on the inside for us to attract the things that we want on the outside. On the inside, we're broken. It's really, really hard for us to acquire or attain the things that we want on the outside, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys a super awesome technique that will instantaneously move that dial for you, where you will no longer be sitting down thinking about all the issues of your past, but you will be sitting down thinking about all the things that you anticipate for your future. How many of you guys no longer want to be focused on the bullshit of your past and you just wanna have thoughts of success and positivity and enlightenment, all that other stuff? And I've spoken about this a few years ago, actually. And this is the law of sacrifice. You cannot get something that you want if you're not willing to give something in return. So how I use this as an analogy back in the days is I said the same guy that's a multi-billionaire has the same exact 24 hours in his day as the guy that was homeless. I now make about $5 million a year. The same exact guy, this guy right here that's making about $5 million a year, well, guess what? He has the same exact 24 hours that the same exact guy had when he was homeless, making $3,000, $4,000 a year. What I'm explaining is I had the same exact 24 hours, except when I was homeless, when I was a piece of crap, when I was struggling in life, well, my entire day was spent around, seeking pleasure, smoking weed, doing all the things that emotionally made me feel good. But just because I'm appealing to my emotions does not mean that I'm going to be moving myself in a forward projection. And most of us make this mistake. Most of us, we tie our entire livelihood, our entire life based off of how we feel. But how we feel would then lead us down a path that we don't want to be led down. When I was homeless, right? All I felt like doing was smoking weed. All I felt like doing was skateboarding. All I felt like doing was rapping and acting. That's all I felt like doing because that's all I felt that I was good at. And because of these feelings, I refused to grow. I refused to elevate. I refused to elevate because I was so stuck on how these things made me feel. There came a point in time when I realized, call it intuition, these things no longer serve me. In fact, these exact things that I'm holding on to with their attached feelings were the reasons why I was homeless. Those exact things were the reasons why I was struggling. And I had to make a decision. I was at a crossroads. A, do I go down this path and continue going down this path where all I'm doing is suffering and pain and anxiety and fear and shame and all these other things? Or do I try another path? Walk down a path that's risky, brand new, don't know what to expect. Learn something new that I'm uncomfortable with. Learn how to run a business. Oh my gosh, I'm not good at business. I'm not good. Oh, this is gonna be really, really hard. I'm only a creative guy. Like I like smoking weed and making music. I can't run a business if I'm like high. So what do I have to do? For me to be successful in this leg, I need to sacrifice something that I have with my time. And I was spending a lot of time smoking weed. And the thing is, I've never really realized how much time is wasted smoking weed. Then after you smoke it, then you're kind of like dazed for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you're conversating or you're laughing about some stupid shit, or you're on your phone just scrolling like stuck in zombie mode because you're just like so zooted. And then you're like, I'm hungry. And then you go get some food, and then by the time you got some food, you're just like, oh man, I gotta smoke some more. And the cycle literally repeats itself. That used to be my life. It's crazy, like looking back at it. But I realized that that version of me cannot stabilize and operate a business. It cannot. So I had to make a decision. Am I willing to give up the things that I'm doing with my time here to have these potential outcomes? You gotta learn how to write copy, how to send out emails, how to build a business, how to build a funnel, how to figure out how to market products and how to sell. I gotta figure out all these things. Or I can go back to what feels right, what feels good. You know what feels good? The old me feels good. Because the old me and the old way of me operating, it feels normal to me, not abnormal. It feels normal, it feels good, it feels, I just want that feeling. I yearn for it. It feels familiar. How many of you guys realize that you draw yourself to familiarity? Whether it could be in old relationships or old friendships, right? You draw yourself to familiarity. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. When we are trying to become something bigger than we are, we have to be okay with letting go of the familiarity. So I had to make a decision. Do I remain the same, go over what feels good, or do I spend my time doing something completely different? Same 24 hours, right? And all I did was I took one thing, sacrifice. Instead of me smoking weed, the same exact time it would take me to smoke weed, I took that time and I said, I'm gonna learn how to build a funnel, or I'm gonna learn how to sell something. Or instead of me smoking weed, I'm gonna go read a book. I'm gonna do something different with my time. And what most of us do is this: I'm not gonna smoke weed anymore. I'm not gonna drink alcohol anymore. Okay, great, you have to replace it with something. That is not how the law of sacrifice works. You cannot just sacrifice something and not replace it with anything else. Most of us do this, and this is why the things that we sacrifice doesn't stick. We have to be able to sacrifice it with a new level of operation, a new level of action, something new that we have to be able to replace that thing with. Or else what's gonna happen is we're gonna revert right back to what felt normal or what felt regular to us at the moment. I'm sacrificing this. What am I gonna be replacing this other thing with? It's not just saying, hey, no, I'm gonna sacrifice myself and I'm not gonna replace with anything else. You have to be able to replace, or else you're gonna revert right back to the old habits, the old way of operating, the old way of being. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to share with you guys some of the sacrifices that we've already had, right? Because there's two sides of sacrifice. Everyone thinks that, okay, there's just one side of sacrifice and I can just sacrifice and improve my life. Wrong way of thinking. There's many different ways of sacrifices. So the law of sacrifice has many, many different strengths. There's the upside of sacrifice and there's also the downside of sacrifice. One of the first things that every one of us as a human being we do is we sacrifice crawling for walking. One of the first things that we do, the first sacrifices that we make as a child growing up, is we sacrifice crawling for walking. We no longer crawl. Right, but there was a point in time where that's all you did, but you learned how to sacrifice crawling for walking. So I want you guys to keep in mind, the law of sacrifice is a thing that's universal. There's no escaping it. Right? We sacrificed that junior high school for high school. Once we graduated, we didn't have the option to say, no, I'm just gonna go back to 7th grade again or 6th grade again. Or you know what, I'm in 9th grade or 10th grade, I'm just gonna go back to pre-K. That's not what happened. I'm in college, I'm just gonna go back to kindergarten. No, we are growing. We've sacrificed one thing for another thing. We sacrificed the level of education from junior high school to a new level of education that we find in high school. We sacrificed walking for driving. There used to be a time where every one of us used to have to walk to school, have to walk to the store, have to walk here, walk to the park. But if I'm going somewhere that's like 2-3 blocks, I'm not walking, I'm driving. But there used to be a time where I'd have to walk for hours. So I want you guys to think, the law of sacrifice, it's universal. It works for everything. So if it works for everything, then you have to also understand, it is the missing piece in your life that can change all things for you. Because if you do it the wrong way, then of course you understand there's consequences. Some of you guys sacrifice your jobs. I know a handful of you guys sacrifice your jobs for affiliate marketing. Sharda, Trang, Abigail, Orit, I believe even Kim, a bunch of you guys, right? Seth, he got rid of his part-time job. Sacrifice your jobs for affiliate marketing. Caesar, and the list goes on. And here's another one. Some of you guys sacrifice self for others. We're gonna be going and building homes for homeless families, and some of you guys are so freaking incredible. You're willing to sacrifice yourself to be there for others and help build a home for people in need. So there's many different sacrifices, but what I want you guys to notice is this. When you graduate from crawling to walking, what happens? You become faster, right? When you graduate from junior high school to high school, what happens? You become smarter. When you graduate from walking to driving, what happens? You can go further. You sacrifice your job for affiliate marketing, what happens? You have freedom. Right now you've attained your freedom. You got your freedom back, right? You can make what you would make an entire month. You can now make that in one day. You just saved over 100 hours of your life back. Last but not least, when you sacrifice yourself for others, what happens? You find purpose. I want you guys to understand, when you're operating on the higher levels of sacrifice, the only thing that you can receive from that is growth. Growth requires sacrifice. Just as I said, there's a positive side. There's the upper side of sacrifice. There's also the lower end of sacrifice as well. And the lower end of sacrifice would leave you in decay, all right? It would leave you in decay. Are you guys ready to see what the lower end of sacrifice looks like? This looks like when you sacrifice your peace. When you sacrifice your peace for jealousy, you decay. When you sacrifice your happiness for anger, your excitement, we could sacrifice our faith for fear. We can also sacrifice our common sense for stupidity. But we can choose stupidity. We can choose these things. And I want you guys to also keep in mind and understand, for me to sacrifice myself for others, that is a choice. For me to leave my job and go do affiliate marketing, that's also a choice. So we're gonna go deep in on this. Most of us, right, it doesn't matter where we are. I'll tell you about me. I remember I used to feel so much shame, right? However, I took that shame, I sacrificed that shame, and I chose acceptance. I chose to accept myself for who I am. And every one of you guys can do the same. So I traded in shame for acceptance. I traded in my shame for acceptance. I accept the fact that my fucking feet stink. I'm homeless. It is what it is. I'm not gonna stay here for long. This is part of my journey and I accept it. I've traded in my fear for joy. I no longer feel fear when I'm doing things. And even if I'm feeling fear, guess what? I enjoy it. It's part of the process. You cannot grow without feeling fear, so you might as well just enjoy it. Why? Because why not, right? So you can choose to sacrifice all of these things, right? Pride, or I can say desire, or anger. Desire, anger, let's just take all of these. Pride, anger, desire, right? Sacrifice all of that for peace, right? Name this PAD. Pride, anger, and desire, right? For peace. I'm at peace, guys. I have no pride. I'm not prideful. I'm proud of my accomplishments. Whatever you choose to focus on is what you're gonna get more of. Probably even perhaps making yourself worse in the process. The only thing that matters in this life, guys, is the choices that you make. It's the only thing that matters. Either the choices you make or the choices you do not make. But at the end of the day, they are both still choices. So to conclude this class, with everything that we've covered, I want you guys to look into the law of sacrifice. Because you have to be willing to sacrifice something of a lesser value to you to acquire or attain something of more value to you. And that is the only way that you can grow. It doesn't matter how you were grown.